Hey, y'all.
Joining us now in the studios, Chip Pickering, CEO of INCOMPAS and former representative for Mississippi's 3rd Congressional District. Chip, good to see you.
Well, it's good to be with you.
So we wanted to have you in to talk about Senator Amy Klobuchar's she calls it an anti-competition bill. I think that's right. It's kind of an anti-economic bill, but specifically targeting the technology sector. And I know you have a lot of clients in the technology business and in that arena. You know, I got to first start out by saying this, Chip. As a technologist and one who was in the technology business, some of these companies I don't really consider to be technology companies. If you look at Amazon, for example, which is one of the major targets of this legislation, it's really their e-commerce business that they're targeting. That's not really technology. They're not selling technology. Amazon Web Services, which is not really part of this, that is technology services. That's what they're selling to consumers. In the case of what Senator Klobuchar seeks for Amazon is to what she describes as level the playing field between Amazon and the many retailers who sell through Amazon, who, by the way, wouldn't do that without the platform they created.
Exactly. And if you look at what Amazon and Microsoft and most of the technology companies, they provide platforms for innovation and entrepreneurship on top of what they do.
Yeah.
They enable all of our small businesses, all of our mid-sized businesses, large businesses of every type, of every kind, and it multiplies the economic activity. It doesn't consolidate or constrain economic activity. It grows it, and it grows the innovation on top of what they do.
Yeah.
And so that's something that is very important for us to remember, and it's the wrong time in the wrong place in the wrong way.
Yeah. So in the case of Amazon, I think what Senator Klobuchar seeks is to prohibit Amazon from maybe giving preferential treatment to their own brands if a consumer is shopping for something and they're doing searches and so forth. I don't know that I've ever noticed that as an Amazon shopper. I mean, she says that's something that's going on. I'm sure people told her that, and she wants legislation to disallow them from doing that. But on the other hand, Chip, I don't know the figures. How many small businesses out there and sellers who weren't even in business have done pretty well utilizing Amazon's platform?
Well, I don't know if you've been watching any of the commercials. You have Clayton Stanley, who is an economic development leader for North Mississippi, and he's been on commercials around the country just talking about this is a Main Street issue. This is mom and pop and small businesses that use Amazon and Facebook and all the other type of technology tools to grow their own small businesses on Main Street.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing what we call the consumer welfare harmed. Are prices around those services rising? No, in fact, they're enabling all the companies to compete against each other to keep prices down across multiple sectors.
Okay.
And so if you look at the consumer welfare, prices that the technology companies are driving are actually going down because of the greater efficiency and the scale and the scope that allows the small and mid-sized and entrepreneurial companies to use those services. Innovation is going up. Investment is going up. And so that's why it's a solution looking for a problem that really doesn't exist. And there's a larger political point here, too. Is this something that in the midst of a war with Ukraine, in the midst of record high inflation, in the midst of a new emerging rivalry with China, where our tech sector is leading our global competitiveness against China, and all of the cybersecurity and the national security implications of who wins the technology, the applications, the economy of the future, do we want to cripple that sector as we race against China? Do we want to cripple, as we could see a recession coming at the end of the year into next year, the largest, most innovative sector of our economy, do we want to harm it? And so there's just a lot of questions. And the third political point is, do you want Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer to make technology policy, or do you have a chance to wait till the midterms are over? We believe that there's going to be a congressional change of leadership and a new majority, And should you have a new majority, a new Congress, look at something that is so strategic and so significant to our country and our economy.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, just the idea of federal bureaucrats getting in the middle of that and promulgating policy and rules about something of which, first, moves way faster than they can possibly ever regulate, and secondly, they really just don't understand. And you can tell that every time I've talked about on the show. Every time the leaders of these companies they're called to the Hill to testify about something, it's pretty clear and pretty obvious that the congressional folks really don't understand what the heck they do. I get nervous about them making policy in those situations.
And if you look at what the country cares about right now, and if you were to have national polls and you have the Pew, some of the most respected pollsters asking voters, what do you care about most? Breaking up tech companies and trying to limit and restrain doesn't even make the top 10 list of the things that are pressing for our country. And we have, as you and I were talking on break, we have about 9 weeks of the session left before the midterms. And what does Congress need to be focusing in and on during those 9 weeks? Is it how do you support Ukraine?
Yeah.
Is it how do you make sure that that a possible recession and inflation is addressed in a much better way than it's occurring right now?
Yeah.
And those are the issues that I think people care about. Making sure that the fundamentals of our public safety, our national security, our immigration policy, all of those types of issues that really I think people have a much greater concern about going forward.
What are the other provisions of Klobuchar's legislation that cause you some heartburn there?
Well, it's somewhat unprecedented. As in your background, if you develop intellectual property, software and the code and the applications, historically we have had non-discriminatory access to what are known as monopoly networks, railroads, utilities, telecommunication networks. We don't give access to somebody else's intellectual property. So this is a very, I think, dangerous precedent that as you develop an app or if you develop the type of search engines or platforms that the people who develop that proprietary technology are then forced to open it up to their competitors. And so it's a very troubling precedent that would be set by Klobuchar. And again, it's not that we're not. If you look at whether it is cloud services, or advertising, or retail, all of the specific markets that the technology platforms are enabling or selling into, you can't say, okay, there's only 2 or 3 players there. Usually, there's multiples of players and sometimes tens of players, and we now have 10 million applications that all of the app economy has developed in a rapid, record-setting pace over the last decade.
Yeah.
Why do you want to try to disrupt that at the moment? Again, that we have war on one side of the globe and an emerging threat with China, and our technology sector is what will give us international leadership, both economically, technologically, and national security.
Yeah.
This is not the time.
I totally agree. And I just can't say it enough. I get concerned about back office government bureaucrats putting together rules and regulations for this industry, for any industry, but especially one that moves so rapidly and one that's so complex, so deep, so wide. And what you think is you got covered today, something else pops up because somebody innovates, and now you got to go address that, and you're constantly chasing it. Yeah. And it just doesn't seem like a good idea. Why her? Why do you think she's really behind this?
Klobuchar, she was an attorney general in her previous life, and so at the state level and in her legal career, has focused on antitrust and competitive issues.
I got you.
This is kind of the political issue of the day, and really what is going on in Washington, if you want to know the truth, is the swamp of the old industries and the old lobbyists who are being disrupted by the new technologies and the new entrants and the new companies wanting to try to harm what is disrupting their old business.
That makes total sense.
An old business
And
model.
so they want the government to help them, basically.
So they want the government to harm the successful.
Yeah. Hold
So
us
that-
all back.
Yeah.
Chip,
So
thanks for coming on.
It's great to talk to you
Appreciate it,
again.
man.
Thank you very much.
Chip Pickering, CEO of INCOMPAS. We'll take a break right here on Middays. Stay with us.